Driving it home with the professor, cage side, almost like fireside, but this is what we do. We train people to fight. We fight self-defense, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, mixed martial arts. Speaking of mixed martial arts, I have on today um, a good friend, fellow black belt, cast member on The Ultimate Fighter, BJ Penn, Frankie Edgar, very talented mixed martial artist, hard worker. Name is Anton Berzin. Lives in the city of Philadelphia. Fights out of Balance Studios. When you think about the current crop of mixed martial artists, and you say, "Man, this guy's really well-rounded. He could punch, he could kick, he could do jiu-jitsu, wrestling." I think of guys like Anton. So if you haven't heard of him, you will soon. Anton, did I miss anything?
No, no, that was a spectacular introduction.
Awesome. All right. So people that may not know you may not realize, or that only know you in passing, don't realize you weren't born in this country. You were born in Russia, and like what was that experience like for you? Kind of, like what? Well, let's first talk about what brought your family from Russia. You think you told me earlier it was in the old Soviet Union, or the Ukraine. I'm sorry, the Ukraine.
Yeah.
What brought your family here to the United States?
Well, America is the best place to live. It's a land of opportunity. I could be a 17-year-old kid and do mixed martial arts. You know what I mean? I could have a car. I could have my own apartment at 25. That's very hard to accomplish in any other countries. In the other countries you have, people getting their heads chopped off, and I just ordered a pizza. So it's better to live in America than it is in Russia. And I'm the youngest of 10 kids.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Your mother has 10 children?
Yeah, didn't know that?
No, no.
Let's take it back.
So you're the youngest of 10 kids, so no wonder why you know how to fight.
Well, yeah. Interesting. So I'm not a spoiled kid from the suburbs. Not there's anything wrong with it.
No, right. You're not your average white guy, I know.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm the youngest 10 kids. My mother and father, they had 8 boys, 2 girls. And, my dad actually played the lottery and we won the green card. So, because you can't just you can't just pick up and say, you know what, I'm gonna go live in America.
Yeah, no, my parents did the very same thing. They went to the consulate, and then they won. They had to wait. They lucked out and they got, they were able to come.
So we won. My dad won the green card, and then we got sponsored by a Baptist church in Nebraska.
So wait, your dad wins the green card, but is it like a wedding where it's like green card plus 10?
I don't know the exact details. I don't want to say anything that's not true. But a church in Nebraska, Baptist church, they sponsor us because, you're making $50 a month. In Russia back then, how are you gonna pay for 12 plane tickets?
Right.
So we got a church that sponsored us. They flew us to Nebraska there, and we kind of started grinding from there, man.
So how long were you guys in Nebraska? Do you remember being in Nebraska at all?
Yeah,
or?
I remember Nebraska. I went to school in Nebraska until I want to say 95.
All right. So how were you in 95? Because you're a pretty young kid. So.
I was 6.
Okay. So, and then from Nebraska, where do you wind up?
From Nebraska, we come to Jersey, to Vineland, New Jersey.
Nice. Right near Millville, near the South Jersey Strangler.
Right next to Timmy, right next to Timbo. But we weren't friends. And I went to school there. I went to high school for a little bit. I went to middle school there, and then while we were in New Jersey, my dad he went overseas. So my older brothers, they kind of were forced to drop out of high school and get jobs to help support the family.
Okay. And now you guys all pretty close and tight? So you're the youngest of 10. So with your 9 brothers and sisters?
Yeah, we're very very close.
What's the age difference? How much older do you use the oldest?
We're like 11 years apart, me and the oldest.
Man, so you guys are it's like an Irish family.
Like Irish twins.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, I know I think my mom my mom's mom, so my great grandmother, I think she had
Yeah.
like 14, 15 kids. And back in the day, I know, and this was in Italy and Argentina, like they had a gang of kids because they needed people to work the farm. You
My dad was building a soccer team, man.
All right. So your parents come to this country much like a lot of immigrants
Yeah.
to start a better life, to have a better life for the kids and for themselves.
Mhm.
So, I don't know how it was for you, but for me, my parents didn't quite understand like getting into sports and athletics and like all this other stuff. So, were your parents supportive of you, like in your high school or formative years, like, being in sports or anything like that?
Um, Not quite, not quite. I When I was 13, I got a job. I actually started playing. I tried to play football for a little bit, but I kind of had to get a job to help out around the house.
Okay.
I became a deli boy, so there was no time for after school activities. So I went straight from school to work, from work home back to school. So I kind of didn't. I wanted to. Everyone wanted. My principal wanted me to do crew, be on the rowing team. And all the wrestling coaches wanted me to wrestle, but it never worked out.
All right. So, I mean, and that's it for people that don't grow up in the immigrant experience. That's pretty typical. Either your parents don't let you do sports, or you have to work. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. So, it's not that your parents are being bad parents. They're just
No,
being, yeah,
no.
no, right. They're doing what families do when they need to get ahead in this country. So, how did you? So your parents were, didn't have the means, or there wasn't the opportunity for you to do athletics. How did you get involved in mixed martial arts or martial arts in general?
Um, when I was about 12, my dad bought me a pair of boxing gloves for my birthday, and ever since then he bought me two pairs. So one for me and one for one of my brothers, and we just started kind of going at it, and we tried to develop some sort of techniques. I remember when I was 13, I was renting books on how to box and trying to watch videos online on how to box, and kind of trying to teach myself how to fight. Of course, watching Bruce Lee movies, Van Damme movies, Jackie Chan movies, and trying to imitate them. And of course, fighting with my brothers every single day for no reason.
All right. So your dad gets you boxing gloves,
Yeah,
and so there starts kind of your path, right? Your
yeah,
your dad your dad gets you gloves. You and your brothers are punching each other in the face. It's
yeah.
awesome, right?
So yeah, movie Kickboxer, right, with Van Damme.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Remember when Van Damme gets stretched out on the tree to do a split?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So my brother Andre and Daniel thought that was a good idea, so they did that to me. They stretched me out on with like ropes, so I would be able to do a split for some reason.
I
So
don't. I can't quite agree that that's a good idea, but maybe your brothers knew. Like they got you to this point, so maybe they
it's a
were right.
terrible idea. It was a terrible idea.
So
And I was 19. No, I'm just kidding.
so your brothers are stretching you out on a tree, right?
Yeah,
They're trying
for
to
some
make you do a full split.
for
Uh,
some
at,
reason.
wh- at what point did you get involved with a mixed martial arts school? Like how did that all come about?
Um, I started. I knew a guy who had a karate gym, and in like the Russian community, there was one guy who was like a amateur boxer, and then we had a mutual friend who was like a wrestler. He wrestled in high school and college, and they were getting together on like Sunday afternoons, and they were just kind of training. They were trying to grapple or trying to figure out what to do. Some guy would show somebody how to punch, and some guy would show somebody how to do a takedown. And they invited me one day, and I came. And the little wrestling I knew, and the little skills I had, we kind of started grappling or training, so to say. And then a buddy of mine, about a year later, like 8 months later, a buddy of mine told me he was training at a gym called Rocco's. He was like, "Hey, just come check it out with me." And I was like, "You know what? I'll check it out. Why not? It's something I always like doing. Let me see how I like it." First day there, I fell in love with it. I remember learning my very first class, learning how to do an armbar from the mount. Grabbing the hammer lock, pulling them over to the side, stepping over for an armbar, and I was like, yes, this is what I want to do.
All right. So, but now did you always know that you wanted to kind of fight professionally, or was this something that you kind of developed through training and kind of being at Rocco's and all this other stuff?
Um, I mean, I've always had a dream, but I wasn't till then. I was never in a position to understand my ability. You know what I mean? I fought on the streets all the time. We fought guys. I was a good street fighter, and I would try to be as technical as I can. But I never, I was never in an opportunity where I could say, "Oh man, I could actually do this for a living." You know what I mean? Up until then, up until I went to an organized gym.
All right. So now you find this gym, you're training at Rocco's, and you know how did your first fight come about? You know what I'm saying? Like how did you break into the sport?
Um, I went there. My first day, I went there. And I went there during the day, and the way the classes are set up there, they're open from 12 to 9. They have two like waves of classes. From 12 to 2, break, and from 6 to 9. First class I went there, I stayed. I went got something to eat. I came right back. Next day, I came there in the morning. I came back at night. So I was training twice a day, and I was just good at it. I remember my first week there, I submitted everybody with the little stuff I knew, except of course for the instructor, for like the four instructors over there. They beat me up pretty bad. But I just started training, and about maybe 4 months in or 5 months in, they were like, "Hey, there's boxing matches coming up. Would you like to do a boxing match?" No, let me take it back. I did a grappling match first. I did Naga in Newark,
Okay.
and I got smoked. I did novice division. I entered. I was training for like maybe 2.5, 3 months. Some dude took me down and smoked me, and I was like, "Oh man, if this was a fight, he'd kill me." So I kind of had like a reality check there. After that, I was like, I trained super hard. I took a boxing match. I did a boxing match. I ended up winning, and after that, I competed in Naga again. I ended up taking first. I fixed as many kinks as I could. I ended up smoking everybody, submitting everybody, and that's my first couple competitions slash fights. With
Okay, and then your first MMA fight, it was just kind of is the progression. You're grappling, you're boxing, and then you started off in the amateurs, right?
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to fight MMA, but my coach said no. You have to win a boxing match first. Then you have to win a grappling match. You have to win a grappling tournament, and only then I will allow you to do MMA, because I was his first MMA fighter.
I tell you, I think those are two very good rules to put for anybody that's like thinking that they should fight MMA. Yeah,
Yeah,
like do a strike, either a kickboxing, Muay Thai, boxing,
yeah,
and a grappling match, just to kind of see if you got not to be vulgar, but the balls to do it.
yeah. I remember winning the tournament. I remember my final match. I armbarred the dude, and I was so happy. Not because I beat him, but because I was able to fight MMA now. I was so excited that I was like, oh sweet, now I'm gonna be allowed to, fight mixed martial arts.
No, that's awesome, man, because it sounds like they were bringing you up the right way.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so now leads me into my next question, because you're not, you're no longer with the camp that you started with, and you've kind of, you've switched teams, you've switched coaches, and a lot of times in our community that's frowned upon. Guys, they'll talk shit on the guys that do that. And you and I had, in that ride down the that hour ride down the Smyrna,
yeah. For some
we
reason, turns out it's a
we
7-hour drive.
we had a good conversation, and you kind of, you let me in on how you handled it. So give us some background on kind of how the thought process started for you when you said, hey, you know what, man, it's about time that I have to move on. I don't know if it was because you needed to reach the goals you wanted to reach, were you having a problem at the gym, like where did this all kind of come from?
Well, before I go into that, uh, I maybe was 3 fights in my amateur MMA career, and some guy invites me. Yeah, I also did kickboxing. Some guy invites me to his gym. Some like shiesty boxing promoter. He's like, hey, yeah. I didn't know anybody. I was 18. He invites me to his gym. He's like, I have a guy, get some work in. So I go there, I show up. Get some training. It's not like it was an ambush or anybody beat me up or anything like that. I go there, I moved around with the guy. The guy was like a pro boxer. He did pro kickboxing. And the next day, I go tell my coach. I'm like, oh man, guess what? I went to this guy's gym, and we got some training, and he's not as good as I thought. I did pretty good against him. And then he gives me this whole speech on how, like, what are you doing? You didn't ask me. I'm your instructor. He was like, I'm investing time in you and all this effort, and you know what I mean. Well, why didn't you tell me? You can't just do that. You have to tell. He gave me a whole speech on how I should tell him before that out of respect, and he's completely correct. And I apologize, of course, and so I kind of understood like what kind of how he would feel. You know what I mean? He explained to me how he was like, put yourself in my shoes. How would you feel if?
Right, and hey, and he's laying the ground rules down for
Yeah,
you if you want to continue being his student, right?
yeah,
And when you want to go visit other places, then you got to talk to him first.
yeah.
Okay. I mean, and the beauty part of that is it's an offer. The offer was accepted, and then you just operate under those rule sets, right? If you didn't like the offer, then you say, hey, you know what? I'm not cool with that.
Yeah,
I'm going to go do
yeah.
something different.
But I mean, Adam took me to many gyms, got training partners for me as much as he could. He did that for me. I didn't have to. I didn't know any better. He taught me basically a lesson.
All right. So there comes a point where it's getting further than this, right? Like, so what kind of, like, how did this start? What kind of happened for you where you felt like, hey, you know what? Maybe I need to start thinking about changing gyms, teams, coaches, that kind of thing.
All right. So I went from since I started training, basically I had this black belt instructor who we ended up being awesome training partner. I ended up being his favorite training partner. And we train twice a day, every single day. So pretty much I was getting a private lesson twice a day, every day by a really good grappler, a really good instructor. And so my level jumped up really fast. I started fighting. I started fighting more amateurly. Then I started winning advanced grappling competitions. I started smoking everybody with my grappling. And it came to a point where at the gym, I just didn't have enough work. I didn't have enough training partners, and I kind of had to go explore other gyms. I needed training partners my size that could push me because I wasn't getting that. Because I was fighting professionally, and I was the only pro in the gym. You know what I mean? I was the only pro and the only high level grappler other than my instructor. So I was kind of a big fish in a small pond.
Okay.
And I got invited. I remember Zoo. After I fought I was already fighting professionally, and Zoo posted on his Facebook something like, "Hey, gonna go spar at Dallas, blah blah blah, whatever time." I'm like, "Hey, can I come?" I commented, "Can I come?" He was like, "Yeah, sure." I'm like, "Where at? When?" Uh, he was like, he told me time and day, and I showed up. It was Zoo, and it was Tim Carpenter. Back then, I thought Tim Carpenter and Tim Williams were the same person. I told you that, right?
No, I didn't realize that, but a lot
Well, I
of
thought they were the same person because Tim's a carpenter. Tim Williams is a carpenter. So I thought that was like his fight name. I was like, oh, Tim the Carpenter.
Okay.
Tim Carpenter. But anyway, so I go there. I train with them, and then they invite me. Zoo's like, yeah, why don't you come down to Balance on Sundays? Come check it out. So I go down to Balance, and as I walked in, I seen all the high level guys. Actually, what they did, I walked in and I rolled with Rick, your instructor, and he whipped my ass. He submitted me. Like two or three times. Until then, I haven't been submitted in like 2 years. So my head's like this big, and then Rick just smokes me. I'm like, all right, this is where I need to be. And then I slowly started cross training there, and I had an issue with my coach about it. And we came to common ground. So I'm like, look, I kind of have to do this. You know what I mean? I still, you're still part of my team, but I kind of have to do this. You know what I mean?
Right. You were still like if I recall correctly, you were still flying his flag, as they say.
Yeah. And at first he wasn't okay with it, and then he was kicking and screaming. He understood that that's what I had to do. You know what I mean? It wasn't like
It's 11 o'clock.
I was getting beat up.
By the way, it's 11 o'clock wherever we're at.
Yeah. It wasn't like I was getting beat up by all the white belts, and I was like, oh no, this ain't working for me. You know, I got to go do this. I got to go. It wasn't like that. It was I actually needed better training partners. He was okay with it, and I started cross training slowly, and you know, I was spending more and more time at Down Studios, and you know, Rick and Andy and you. I came to your gym like 3 times a week, and you guys were giving me all this time, you know, time and effort. You know, when I started, I was the guy you guys were trying to beat up, and then I kind of slowly started becoming one of the team. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, that's kind of how it happened, and I'm happy it did. That's how it needed to happen in order for me to progress as a fighter.
And what I think people should probably realize too, at least from my perspective, like when you were coming in, any kind of training or help that you got was simply because I wanted to help you. And I believe the same thing with Rick. Like we don't really care. Like, hey, you're here, you're part of the team.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter what kind of, you know, what flag you fly. And a lot of people seem to gravitate towards that with us as a kind of like an overall team mentality. It's like when you're on our mats, you're with us. We don't care about what T-shirt you're wearing or what patches on your gi. You know. Yes. So, all right. So now you're training with Rick. You're coming to my school. You're training with Andy. But at a certain point, you're gonna have to have a conversation with Adam because you're spending less and less time there and more time, and you're kind of like, okay, well, how's that conversation go down?
You know, it kind of I don't know. I kind of actually just kind of happened. I found myself driving from, you know, having a 45-minute drive from where I used to live in Northeast to the city there, and then an hour and a half back in traffic, you know, maybe 6 times a week. And I was like, oh man, I need to be here with these training partners, with this instruction. So that's when I packed up and then moved closer to the gym. And he wasn't too happy about it, but he kind of accepted it. He knew that's what I needed. He knew that's where I needed to be. And you know, even still now, he tells me, because we're still really good friends, and I was there last week. You know, I still get on the mats, go roll with the guys, help everybody out as much as I can. You know what I mean? We're still, first and foremost, he's my instructor, and that's my home gym, and he's my boy. So he understood that. Even now, he still tells me, he was like, man, you need to go somewhere where there's all pro 205ers, somewhere, you know what I mean? He tells me to go to like California or somewhere like the Black Zillions to go train with them to get the proper work. You know what I mean? So he understood at the end of the day.
Gotcha. So you had the conversation, and so, but what was really refreshing when I found out how you kind of handled it was that you sat, you know, it sounds like you just sat down with him and said, hey, you know, I'm making this move happen, as opposed to sneaking out in the middle of the night and not showing up anymore.
Yeah, that's not my style. And
now, do you think that doing it that way is what preserved your friendship and relationship with Adam?
Of course, yeah. That's for any relationship, not just fighting. I can't break up with my girl and, you know, by just while she's at work just dipping. You know what I mean? That's not the proper way to do things. Or you can't just quit by just leaving. No, you're either a man or you're not. You know what I mean? You have to handle your business properly in order to save a relationship. If you want that relationship saved, which you probably should.
Right. I mean, and it seems like you wanted to preserve your relationship with Adam. So, and it's one of the few times where I've seen it that it's worked out, that everybody has stayed friends, because people get, you know, as much as there's a lot of men in mixed martial arts, guys get catty and they get kind of, you know, butt hurt and that kind of thing.
Well, my attitude kind of was like, just knock it off. You know, just knock it off.
So you and Adam have a good relationship now. What is really cool is that you go back and you give back.
Yeah.
You know, because that's your gym, man. That's where you started. That's where kind of like, you know, if not for them, who knows where you'd be right now.
If not for him teaching me jiu-jitsu, I wouldn't be there. I would be, who knows? I'd be on the street. I'd be in jail somewhere.
All right. So what kind of advice would you give a fighter in a similar situation as you. I mean, you lucked out and you had some invites and you knew some friends, but maybe there's guys out there that they're the big fish in their school, but they don't have the Facebook friends or
Yeah.
whatever to kind of go some places. Like what would you tell a guy that has a lot of talent but not a high level of training partners?
Well, make sure that you really are the big fish, not just a goldfish with Napoleon complex. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Really make sure before I left that gym, I sucked out everything possible, like every single thing. Like I broke the bags there, like everything I could get out of that gym, out of those people that trained there, out of all those coaches, I did. Like every single thing. There's nothing. There's no coach I haven't worked with over and over and over again there. You know what I mean? There's no knowledge that I didn't obtain. You know what I mean? And still when I go back, I hop on the mat to do class, to draw the technique. The advice I would give: make sure that you really need to do this, and it's not just your ego talking. And go ask somebody to cross train. There's a perfect example. Guy from Ronnie's school, from Delaware, where we were. I forgot his name, but he trains there, and he's fought professionally, and he hit Rick up. He hit Rick up and wrote him a message. Hey man, I want to develop my game a little bit better. Can I come train with you guys? I know you guys have a good team. He asked real nicely, real polite, real respectful, and Rick said, of course, come on down. He comes to the gym, and he spars with me, and I put it on him. He drops. I drop him. He gets back up, keeps going. He really kind of takes an ass whooping. And the week after that, like Monday, Tuesday, we're sitting thinking, I'm like, man, I wonder if he's gonna come back. Wonder if he's gonna come back. Sure enough, my man's back next Sunday, and he's back again next Sunday. He keeps getting beat up. He keeps getting beat up less and less. That tells me that he actually needs to come here. Despite getting his ass kicked, he understands if he wants to better himself, he needs to go with these people. You know what I mean?
No, I'm with you for sure. So and it's a tough situation to be in because you don't really want to get your ass kicked.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna make fighting your career, you have to go through those things.
Yeah. In the words of Marco, never want to be the toughest guy in the room.
No. I tell you that you never want to be the toughest nor the best, right?
Yeah.
So speaking of the best, right? And you've kind of developed this coaching structure around you of guys that, man, you have some phenomenal coaches, right? Rick and Andy Russell, I would say probably your two main coaches. And we could talk about Rick and all this other stuff, but let's talk about Andy Russell a little bit. You seem to have a really good relationship, but it also seems to be more so than just coach and fighter. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Tell everybody a little bit about Andy and what your relationship is like with him and what he's done for your game and the time you've been working with him.
Yeah. Andy, I don't make any major life decisions without consulting him. This has nothing to do with fighting, just anything. Buying a car, getting a job, anything. I met him through Rick and Phil, and he's trained 3 world champions, and he's trained 3 world champions in 3 different combative sports: kickboxing, boxing, and MMA. He had Rick Rufus. He had I keep forgetting the boxer's name, but he also was a world champion. Jesus something, and Ben Henderson is the most well known. So this man is a book of knowledge that is. We just click. We think the same. We have the same thought process. Of course, he's a lot older and more mature and a lot wiser than I am. He's forgotten more things than I've ever learned. So I'm really extremely lucky to have him, and we have a really good relationship. On a personal level. He comes to my house. We hang out all the time. Like I spend more time with him than I do with anybody I could think of. I spend at least on average 5 days a week with him for maybe 4 hours a day. We train, we get food, we talk, we train again. So that's my relationship with him in a nutshell.
All right. So now that's your kind of personal relationship. Now, where do you see your striking? Because Andy's a phenomenal Muay Thai coach. I've seen him work with people. I love watching him work with people because, man, he's not. I'm not going to say he's not nice, but he does not bite his tongue, man. When he's not happy with you, you see it.
No.
Like I've watched him, and it's really refreshing seeing a coach that cares that much that he doesn't care that he hurts your feelings
Yeah.
because he needs to tell you what you're doing wrong and all that other stuff. So from a technical standpoint, what do you think he's helped you with, and what does he bring to the table for you from that standpoint?
All right, so before I started training with him, I thought I could box. Well, I could. I thought I could strike. I was decent at striking. And then for a session with him, you just realize how many mistakes I have. You know.
Hey,
Just,
hold on 1 second. All right, hold on.
Got it.
Sorry about that. My battery's getting ready to die. I didn't realize the computer got unplugged. So go ahead.
So before I started training with Andy, I could box. I had pretty good kickboxing. From what I thought. And then you start working with someone like that, and you realize how many holes you have in your game, and how much better you could be. You know, every week training with him. You know, and then the week I'm like, man, all right, we're getting good. And come Monday, it's like starting all over. Like, all right, now we're gonna this. Now it's gonna be this aspect. So I know, thanks to him, I know how to throw most effective punches in the proper position without getting hit. So I'm not just in front of somebody throwing punches. So if my foot's aligned with your foot, that's one combination. If my foot's 3 inches to the right of your foot, that's a whole different series of punches and kicks. If my foot's 6 inches to the left, it's a whole different series of punches, kicks, whatever it is. So everything's broken down. Less just of throwing your hands wildly, more of the way a black belt understands jiu-jitsu, the way for instance, you, Marco, could break down a technique. That's the way, like an arm bar or a back kick. That's the way he can break down a 5-6 punch combination. You understand, if that makes any sense?
No, for sure. And I work with the people that I work with and I respect the most are guys that can do that in different fields.
Yeah.
So when you're talking to young fighters or people that are kind of like interested in fighting, or they want to say, hey Anton, what should I look for in a kickboxing coach, or what should I look for in a jiu-jitsu coach or in a jiu-jitsu school? What kind of things do you tell them? Like, say, hey man, this has worked for me in the past. I've been through some different coaches, but this is what I look for, and this is what you should look for. Not saying, hey, you should work with a guy that has this style, but kind of like, what are the things that a good coach should be showing, or things that a fighter should be asking?
Or what the fighter should be doing, and what the coach should be showing the fighter.
Well, what the fighter should be doing when he's looking for a coach. Do you know what I'm saying? And then vice versa, how a coach should treat a fighter.
Okay. I think different coaches will get along with different fighters. You know what I mean? Just like on a personal level, you humans could click. We could have a connection. We could be friends outside of MMA or outside of kickboxing, whatever it is. Outside of that, we can be friends. If we can't be friends outside of that, we're probably not going to have a good relationship as a instructor to a coach. You know what I mean?
I gotcha.
But I've seen it work. I've seen it work as well. The way, for instance, me personally, the way Andy breaks stuff down for me, I understand it. The way he breaks stuff down for other people, they're lost in the sauce. They have no idea what's going on. They write it down, just don't understand it. You know what I mean? But then again, there's other coaches I've been with. I've had this Russian coach who he would say these things, and I had no idea what he's talking about. But now that Andy explained it to me properly, just how to transfer your weight back and forth. But
Gotcha.
the way he was explaining to it, it made no sense to me, at least. You know what I mean?
Right now, so what it sounds like to you, like what's important is making a personal connection with your coach, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm gathering is that you have complete and utter confidence with your coaches, we'll just say Rick and Andy.
Yeah.
On a personal level, but also on a professional level, you completely trust both of those guys.
Yeah. For instance, I was sparring this a couple fights ago. I was sparring this boxer. He's a pro boxer, very high level boxer, bigger guy, southpaw. And Andy was cornering me, and he says, "Throw this combination. You know, whatever combination we're working on." It was a right hook to the body. He's a right hook to the body, step off. He said, "Throw it." Even though I didn't see it, I did it anyway, and it landed. Boom, boom, boom.
Right.
So I was like, "Oh, that's what we work on." So then I started seeing stuff that we work on. I was doing it as if I'm training with him to people that I'm sparring with. You know what I mean?
So it's transferring over. The pad work's just not pad work. It's not cardio, you know?
Exactly. I started having faith, like you just said, I started having faith in what my instructor was teaching me.
All right. So we could get off the Andy Russell love train for a minute. Now it really, you know, I have a lot of respect for that guy. He's one of the few guys when I go to Balance, I go out of my way to say hello and goodbye to him just because I have a high level of respect for what he's accomplished, but also how he carries himself.
Yeah.
So you recently were set to fight for Global Proving Grounds.
Yeah.
What happened? You didn't fight.
Yeah, it happened to me twice with them, and it's I have a lot of trouble finding opponents in my area. First guy I had back in December fell through. You know, it was like 3 weeks out, so we decided we're gonna fight on their next card, which was in January, and week of fight week of the fight on Monday, I get a call. Hey, we lost your opponent. Apparently, you can't fight in the state of New Jersey if you've had LASIK eye surgery. I did not know that. You know what I mean? I don't know how much is true. That's what I've been told, and
Right.
I just got to believe it. So I lose him, and I'm bummed out because I just put so much time and effort into this second camp in a row. So we try to scramble, find a new opponent. They gave me a few names. So I pick a guy. I'm like, all right, I'll fight him. He's a good last minute opponent for me. It's a good record. It'll be a good win. I feel like he's similar to what I've been training for. I'm like, all right, I'll fight him. Next morning, oh, he has a staph infection. He can't fight till March. All right, I'll fight the other guy. So I'm fighting the other guy, which is he's like 6'6". You know, he's a good fighter. He has a winning record. Only has one loss to a UFC guy. And he's a good fighter, and he's completely different game plan than what I've been training for. At first, I was hesitant to fight him. Then I kind of just looked in the mirror, and I was like, "Wait, I'm gonna smoke this dude. What am I talking about?" So I was like, "All right, let's do it." So you know, he was supposed to be on a plane Thursday night. Come Wednesday night, you know, they're like, "Oh, the commission's not gonna sanction it because it's too short notice." And there you go. Now I'm fightless.
All right. So, I mean, I don't know what your contractual obligation is to Global Proving Grounds and all this other stuff, but do you feel like this is the fault of the promoter, the commission, the fighters? Like, if we had to, you know, not that we want to point blame, but what's that?
If I had to point a finger, all right, the best way to put this is, I don't know. I did not see the paperwork for these fighters not coming through, or I don't know when my original opponent, you know, did not pass the medicals, if he did or didn't. I don't know that. I didn't see it with my eyes, so I don't know. I have to take their word for it. That being said, they lost. They only had 2 fights on their last card. They lost 8 fights. How do you lose 8 fights, man?
That's 16 fighters that you had to kind of do this same thing to.
I don't know. I don't know. That's all I'm gonna say. How do you lose 8 fights? So that's nothing against them. Hopefully, you know, more power to them. Hopefully, they're gonna do better. You know, because it was actually when Sammy fought this weekend. It was a good turnout. It was a good venue. You know, the place was nice. The people are nice. And nothing bad about them. But I probably won't bank on fighting for them.
So you're not contractually obligated to fight for them? No.
No.
Okay. So all right. So and you brought up Sammy's name, and he had an interesting thing happen. And like you as a fighter and somebody that's been next to Dana White and all this other stuff. There's your ceiling. Nice. You've been around the UFC. It sounds like Sammy got offered that last minute fight against Uriah Hall, right?
Yeah.
And was asking for his release, and it wasn't given to him. Where do you stand on that?
I think it was for Sammy. I think I told him, I talked to him about it, and I told him I think it's a blessing in in disguise, because when they're bringing in an opponent, a last minute opponent, you're not the fighter, you're their opponent. They're not expecting you to win. They want you to lose.
Right. You're like those guys in professional wrestling that never won.
Exactly. So I'm like, look, you're gonna smoke this guy Woods, and then they're gonna bring you in as a fighter. Not as an opponent. You have a nice 6-week camp to prepare for whoever it is. You'll be ready to rock and roll. You know what I mean? That's what I told them. Whether they should have let him out or not, it's a business, man. It's a business. They would have let him out, they would have lost money. They would have had no show. They would have had one pro fight, and they would have lost money. So they made a decision to keep him, not let him out. Would I have done it if I was Global Proving Ground? Would I have let Sammy out to go pursue his dream? I don't know. I want to say yes now, because if that was me, I'd want someone to let me out. But I don't know. I don't know how.
I mean, here's the thing. This is two dudes talking on video, and then this will be out on the internet for everybody to hear, right? So, you kind of like, you're asking for somebody to do you a favor, right?
Who is?
Sammy is. That's a favor, right? I signed a contract. I have to fulfill my obligation, right? So the flip side of that is, well, what have you done for me that I should do this favor for you, right? Like you said, it's a business, right? So, like those guys at CFFC, man, they bump a lot of guys into the UFC.
Well, they have their contract. They have an outfit for Zuffa.
Well, right, and that's the other thing is, like, you need to you need to protect yourself as a fighter, right? And be smart and say, hey, I have to have this in my contract. But on a personal level, it would have been great to see him fight in the UFC.
Oh yeah.
We all, like, Sammy's a good kid and all this other stuff. But professionally, they have no reason to let him go. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that place is empty if he doesn't fight.
Yeah. If he doesn't fight, it's empty. It's empty. No one's going to go there. So it's up to them. And he went out and he knocked the dude out real quick. So he got another knockout. On a tough guy, Tim Woods. So it makes him look even better.
Right. And look, I mean, Uriah Hall's no easy fight for anybody. You saw the cuts that he gave to Ron Stallings, who's a good fighter.
Let me note that, dude. Ron Stallings, he is smooth, man. That dude, he could rumble, man. I was very impressed watching him fight Tim. When Tim was getting ready, they were like, "Oh, I'm fighting a good southpaw striker." In my head, I'm thinking, man, how good can he be? You know what I mean?
Right.
Sammy's a good southpaw striker. Then I seen him in the fight. I was like, "Holy smokes, man! This guy could box."
Yeah, no, he's good, man. I told Timmy this before, but Tim Williams, I was like, man, that 5th round. Thank God for Tim Williams' wrestling.
Yeah, he was down.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's what good fighters do. Right?
Yeah.
They find a way to win, and that's what he did in that fight.
That was the toughest opponent, man.
Yeah, for sure. And hopefully he gets his crack at the UFC after he wins his next fight. All you guys.
Yeah, he will.
So what's going on with you? What do you got? Anything coming up? Anything, And wait, before we get into that.
Yeah.
So you say you got ready for 2 fights, right? And you didn't take them. You couldn't. The fights just didn't happen.
Yeah.
As a fighter, but also just kind of as a martial artist, as an athlete, is that good for you or bad for you, having gone through 2 training camps but not having the fights?
Mentally or physically?
Both, yeah.
So mentally first, discouraging. But it's like you work so hard for something, and it's like me saying, here, take this, and as soon as you reach out, I pull it back. As soon as you reach out, I pull it back. You know what I mean? So the fight's not hard. Like every real fighter knows, fight's not hard. The six weeks of fighting in the gym, you know what I mean, for 6 hours a day, that's the hard part. So I did the hard part, and what's supposed to be the easy part, it keeps falling through.
It sucks not getting the payoff, right?
Yeah,
And I don't
exactly.
even mean the money. I mean just kind of like showing what your last 6 weeks mean in
Exactly,
15
exactly, and
minutes.
not to mention all the time and money I've invested. I still have to pay my coaches. You know what I mean? I have to pay my living expenses. I have to
Wait,
pay
wait,
that.
you pay your coaches?
Yeah,
You might be the one of the few fighters that does, but go ahead. I'm kidding.
that's a whole different topic. We could get all that, man. And
Go
honestly,
ahead.
I don't pay him as much as I should.
Oh,
But
right. No, but you know what? It's like when it comes to gift giving, it's the thought that counts.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
So go ahead. So from the mental side, it sucks. What about from the
sucks.
physical side? So sometimes I tell people, you know what, the skill, you getting better is you getting better regardless if you fight or not.
Yeah, and physically, I feel like I've improved a lot in my skill and my technique. And so I was supposed to fight Saturday. I found out Wednesday I wasn't fighting, so I kind of loosened up my diet a little bit. I ate cheesesteak and a burger. And today we started talking about a different fight. So it's been like 7 days. We started talking about a different fight. I was training casually, prior to this, a week prior to today, and today I decided to test out my cardio, and I was expecting for my cardio not to be as good, and it actually was better than I expected, better than it was week of the fight, because I trained hard and I got that 6 days off. You know what I mean? And so my cardio is good, and I'm ready to peak next week to fight whenever, man. So physically, I feel great.
Okay. So now, is there anything coming up? I know, we off air. You kind of said, is there anything you could tell, the fans about that you might have going on, or do we want to keep that under wraps till it's more certain?
No, it's I'm trying to negotiate a fight with CFFC against a dude. I'm willing to fight him. So now we're just waiting on his go ahead and get a confirmation for
And when would that be if
February
all
7th.
things February 7th?
At the-
Borgata, Atlantic City.
yeah, at the Borgata.
Nice venue, good place.
Yeah,
You've won there before, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've fought there before, and I think I've won. But it's a good venue, and CFFC is a good show. They're very, very well run, and I'm ready to go. There's no point of me taking a break. I haven't fought since the Ultimate Fighter. Which has been over a year. So
Right.
I've rested enough, and I'm ready to rock and roll. So I'm trying
Awesome.
to take this fight and then fight soon after that.
All right. Anything else you want to let the fans know about before we end it?
Oh, we're ending it?
Bro, I know. I mean, I gotta get home. I got kids. It's like 11:27
I'm
here, bro.
surprised you're at your gym.
Yeah. Well, it was like I was gonna drive home and then do it, but then I was like, I got all my stuff in the car. Like, why don't I just do it now? Because otherwise we'd be doing this till 12:30 in the morning.
Oh my God, well, you better get home.
No, but any parting shots? Anybody you'd like to thank? Sponsors, trainers, people?
I'd like to thank Driving Home with the Professor
That's the only thing you should ever
for
thank.
having me, for having the his favorite Russian on.
Yes.
I'm your favorite Russian right now,
Of
Lex.
course, yeah. No, Lex Friedman's in the basement, man. He's like my 12th favorite Russian.
He's so thank you for having me, and thank you for all the knowledge you gave me in the past few years.
No, thank you, man. I appreciate you coming out and sharing with us when you do and being on the show. And what I've learned about you is that you're a real dude and you don't evade the questions. There's a lot of people that wouldn't answer or give me the kind of responses that you gave me today. It's like that.
Well,
It's refreshing.
Times, man.
What's that?
My tongue gets me in so much trouble, man. I can't bite it. I just say whatever's on my heart.
Yeah, but you know what, man? I don't think anybody ever wonders where they stand with you. So
Yeah.
That's
about
a much better way of operating in this world than keeping people in the dark. All right, my friend. Thank you so much.
It's been real. Thanks, bud.
Thanks.